Hey guys, Matt, IronTrap Garage, and today we're working on the 32 Roadster project again. So made huge strides in this car, taking it from something that was very crusty and rusty underneath to now a pretty darn solid 32 Roadster. So now we're kind of into the bread and butter type rust repair, so to speak, where we're just working around the bottom lower edge of the car and getting all that stuff cut out and replaced. So I'm kind of delicately doing some of that because we are going to keep the car looking old. I don't like to use the word patina, but this car, my plan is to keep it for now looking old. So we're gonna do some spot painting on the car to kind of blend in some paint. You can see the passenger door has no paint. The way this car was sitting, it kind of wore the paint kind of wore funny, so that's what we'll be planning on doing. So because of that, I'm trying to work around the car and some areas where if we were doing a full-on restoration, I may repair a huge patch. If it has just tiny little pinholes, I'm probably going to be leaving those alone. So we're going to be tackling, I'm going to work first on the passenger side today, show you guys doing those patches. We've done it a bunch of times, but hopefully I can give you guys little tips or maybe give you the motivation to get working on your project. So let's get started. Alright, so in the last shot you saw, I was just doing a quick little weld. I actually used silicone bronze on where the front cowl bead area overlaps the rocker, if you'll call it that, or the outside part of the subrail. And originally I think it was actually either spot welded or it was leaded in as well, right where the seam where it overlaps. So I chose to take some silicone bronze TIG rod and I basically weld that in. And the nice thing with that silicone bronze, you can melt it in, and with it being really thin, I was able to just kind of wick it into the metal, into the original metal, and it all blended together. And when we sand it out, it'll actually kind of look like it was a leaded seam, which is perfect. So now we're moved on to the back. The doors, the outer door skin on this door is actually pretty darn nice. So it's surface rusted, but it's not like rotted out, which is nice. This car is rusted a very odd way. So the outer door skins are really pretty nice on this car, but the inner door structures are rotted out. I'm gonna save that for another video where I'm gonna fix the inner door structures. For now, we're trying to work around the car, get the outer skins and everything all fixed up, and then we'll come back and fix those in another video. So now we're moving back to here. Since the door was okay, thankfully, on this one, on the passenger side, we can move over to here. So I've pretty much made with some chalk, I made some lines here where pretty much where we want to cut out. I'm trying to save, again, as much original metal as possible. I have a patch panel from Brookville that we picked up in our trip when we grabbed all our other stuff. And some people were commenting in the last video like, oh, he's going to make patch panels. I've already proved that I could make this panel from scratch. I certainly could. I'd have quite a bit of time in doing that, and I will do it if the panels available are terrible. Luckily, Brookville's pretty good. They matched their stuff up to original parts, and I can already see that this panel has been hit with a shrinker stretcher. It's probably hard to see, but in here there's a shrinker stretcher marks where they actually gave it a little bit of shape. I don't think they rolled it in the wheel here. I don't know if it's going to need it or not. I will check that when we get a little closer, but the beads are pretty close on this, the shape and the profile of the beads step in there. So I chose to go with their patches because I think they look pretty darn close to original, and it will save me like hours and hours of work to make these from scratch. So I opted for that here. So what I can do is, we're not going to be using the whole patch panel. I'll just hold this up. The patch, the cowl, or I'm sorry, the bottom of the rocker, same thing, lays over top of the rocker panel at the bottom. So the quarter panel lays over the rocker panel. There we go, I got it. So the most important thing is to get this line right here, this valley, lining up with, that's why I use my little low rolly chair here. We want that to line up with the line in here. Even if this isn't correct, we can adjust it on this end when it folds in. So right there, we're gonna line that up with the valley of the original. I have it laid over, and you can see I've already put 2 marks here. to line up with our chalk marks we had, so we can knock off the top of this panel. As much as I can weld to the bottom of the panel, the better. It's going to distort less because it's stronger down here. I can also hide the weld. In this case, we're trying to kind of retain that survivor look, if you will, like we did on the stroll car. So when you're doing your repairs, we're trying to keep them as low as possible in areas that we can kind of finish out and you won't really see it if your weld isn't perfect or whatever. I'm trying not to use a ton of body fill or anything. So I'm going to probably weld this up, hammer it out, and kind of leave it as is, so to speak, and then we'll just work over it and it should kind of disappear. So I'm going to cut this panel down, fit this up, and then we'll trim off our excess, and we should be just about ready to start welding another patch in. So we're doing the same thing here at this little seam. I'm going to use silicone bronze and just weld it to the sub rail and then also fill it in, so in one shot it'll blend everything together and also will look cool when it's done. right, so got the last patch welded in the wheel well. Worked out pretty good. It was a little difficult in the corner here. The spot's always really hard to fix on these cars because there's a real tight 90-degree angle and you have to make all these patches join together with original metal. I used a little bit of silicone bronze, which I mentioned I was going to be using this project. That's simply just to work in the areas where the metal's a little thin. Sometimes when you're welding in general and you get into thin metal, you'll find that as soon as you even start an arc on it, it'll just blow a hole in it and cause the problem. So sometimes with the silicone bronze, I lay the rod in there and I actually start my arc right on top of the silicone bronze rod. It takes a little dab off and it just flows into the void and levels it all out and it looks good. So I did that in the corner here a little bit, blended it in, and really, again, once there's paint on it, you'll never know, but it's just a slightly different color. This patch is all welded in and it's nice and tight. The quarter is nice and tight, no weird popping or anything like that, so that's really good. Now I can move around to the other side and do that. I'm going to do that off camera just to not have repetition of the same videos. And when we do the next video, I'll be doing the doors on this thing. The inner lower structures are all rotted out and we need to take care of that. So I'm going to show taking care of that, and then we'll pretty much have the major, fingers crossed, rust repair done on this Roadster, which is pretty crazy because it's turning around in just a handful of videos. It's going to be a super solid body, and we could start dusting in some paint, painting the chassis, and I'm trying to make this thing a roller by winter time so that this thing's sitting on all four wheels, on the rear, blah blah blah, all that, which is a kind of aggressive goal with Hershey and Carlisle and all the madness that is September and October. So thank you guys for following along. Hopefully this video is helpful. If you're doing a project like this just shows how I tackle this stuff, and it might give you a little inspiration for your next project. So thanks guys, catch you later.